Hi, I'm Billy Keels, the host of the Going Long podcast. Every week, I'm going to be here interviewing the absolute best in the business as it relates to real asset investing, as well as real Main Street investors. We're going to be having conversations where you can listen in, and that's going to help you to continue on your path to education so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident in investing long distance. So make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you're liking it as well, because that way you can get every single episode as soon as it comes out. And by the way, don't forget to leave today's episode a 5-star review. Let's go ahead and listen to today's conversation. Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. I'm your host, Billy Keels. And you know what? If you've ever wanted to know the 4 F words, yes, I did say F words, that lead to current retail real estate success, then guess what? You're going to want to listen to every single word of today's conversation, because today's guest is not only a mother, she owns and manages at least 6 shopping centers. Could have changed. You never know. She may tell us a little bit more about that. She's extremely active. She has over 34 years of experience on how to help leasing agents, and she continues to do that. She's also the founder of Azor Academy. And if you're watching us on video, you'll get a hint as to what that means. And she's the founder of Azor Advisory Services, also known as the Canvassing Queen. I'd like to welcome today's guest, Beth Azor. Beth, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Billy. Thanks for having me. And I'm happy to be here.
I am so excited that you're here. I just loved our conversation before, and I want to kind of get to that part of the conversation as well. But you know what? You're going to share so much knowledge and information with the Going Long family today. I think they probably want to hear a lot from you. So I think we'll go ahead and get into that part of the conversation, if you're okay with that.
I am ready.
All right, perfect. Here we go. So, I always like to ask everybody kind of the same 5 questions. And we'll start with 2 in the beginning, and then we'll finish with the Going Long final 3. But everybody wants to know, Beth, where exactly do you live in the United States?
So I live in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area of Florida. So the southeast of the country.
Fantastic. So the southeast of the country, where it's usually pretty warm around this time.
It's about 82 today, right now. I just finished my 4-mile walk and it was 82 out there. So beautiful. We're very blessed to have such nice weather to be able to exercise year round.
It is absolutely wonderful. So in the southeast of the United States, in Miami, Florida. And so, Beth, also too, what is the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
So, Billy, are you familiar with Clubhouse?
Oh, yes. And now that I know that you are, guess who's going to be connecting with us?
Okay.
So yeah, I am familiar with Clubhouse. So go ahead, tell us.
Okay. So in the last 24 hours, I had a woman from Vegas fly in and spend 2 days shadowing me, who I met on Clubhouse. And last night, she and I had dinner with a woman I met from Baltimore who invests in hotels and is starting a women's investment fund. And the 3 of us, who I also met on Clubhouse, and the 3 of us had dinner last night and bonded, and it was fabulous. So that's the most positive thing that's happened to me in the last 24 hours. I met 2 new friends who I think are going to be great friends and possibly business partners.
Wow, I love that. And being able to meet people using the different social media channels to connect with people, have really wonderful conversations, get to meet them. And then the fact of the matter is you all were able to convene in one place. Surprise, surprise, it was 82 degrees in the place where you all met. No, that sounds fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's amazing. So your story is also amazing. And I know I just kind of highlighted a couple of the things, but we would love to know, Beth, if you can share with us along your journey, give us more of your backstory in your own words. And one of the things that we really appreciate is some of the different decision points that you had to make to get to this point in the journey. And then we'll talk about kind of where you're going from here later on, but share your backstory, please.
Sure. Graduated from college. When I was 18, got my real estate license because my parents were in real estate. Got a job at a not-for-profit doing special events, which was a passion of mine, but not making a lot of money. So worked real estate on the weekends. Worked 7 days a week for 2 years, took my $11,000 salary in 1983 to 23 2 years later. So doubled my salary, but still not enough to make ends meet. That's about probably 11,000 back then is about 30,000 today. So my executive director for the not-for-profit said, "We love you, but your ambition exceeds us. You should go do the real estate gig full-time and just volunteer for us for the charity." Very forward thinking of her. I did that. I was doing residential. I didn't really like residential. And I was very bummed that I kind of made a decision for money instead of passion. At 26, I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life because I loved my job doing the special events. So I heard of a commercial real estate position where you lease shopping center space. And a friend of mine said, "It's awesome. You help people open stores like a bagel restaurant or a boutique, and you help them achieve their American dream. And once you do that, you're part of their family." I said, "Sold, I want to do that." And I started in retail leasing in 1986. I started with a company who trained me. I started in their training program. I was there for 18 years. When I was there in my 12th year, I became the president of the company. And when I left in 2004, we had 150 employees, and I had been the president the last 6 years I was there. I grew through the company. I left because I had become a single mother. I had gotten divorced. My son was 4, and my nanny was raising my son. And that decision point of I didn't have a child at 40 to have someone else raise him. So I semi-retired, and I said, I'm going to start buying real estate on my own account, because for the last 15 years with my prior company, I was buying real estate with my partner, but he was the lead. And that was great. And I bought 7, I was a limited investor in 7 shopping centers with him and other partners, but I wanted to go try doing it on my own. And the phone rang with people saying, "Hey, you've been training leasing agents your whole career. Come train our leasing agents." So this little side hustle of teaching started. And I own 6 shopping centers in South Florida. I have owned up to 10. I've sold some of them. I gave one back to the bank in the big recession with my partner, BlackRock. So big institutional firm. We all, got hurt during that, learned a lot of lessons. And so 70% of my time are running those deals. I lease the space. I find the tenants. I collect the rent. I have a very, very small team, like 3 other people. And then 20% of my time is I travel the country or virtually coach and teach other commercial real estate folks and owners of real estate how to fill their vacancies.
Oh, okay, perfect. So you're helping others know how they can fill their vacancies. You're doing that on 34 plus years of experience. You've started investing with other people. You then realized that you wanted to be able to do that. I love the fact that you mentioned that you wanted to wait to a certain point in life to have children, and then you recognize that if you're out of the house all the time, then you wanted to make a change there, and so you made that change, which is phenomenal. And you started in one place, and then you saw the opportunity for new services, right? And so it's really seeing the new opportunities that exist. But if we can, I want to go back just to the kind of the beginning part where you talked about investing passively. And investing passively 7 times, I think is what you said.
Yeah. And I have a story.
So because I just think that, maybe most people would do it the opposite way, go active and then go passive, but you did passive 7 times and then you went active. So help us understand why 7 times. And then what was the kind of moment that you said, I want to go from passive to active?
Yes. So I was a leasing agent, which means I filled vacancies in shopping centers we had life insurance companies and pension funds. They owned the real estate. They hired us to lease and manage, collect rent, and, run the properties. Mm-hmm. And I was a great leasing agent. I loved leasing. My boss, who eventually became my partner, came to me one day when I was 28 and said, "We're buying a grocery anchored center. Do you want to put some money in?" And I said, "Well, how much money?" And he said, $25,000 to $50,000. I said, "I don't have that kind of money." He goes, "Well, you're making about 60, 70,000. You're married. Your husband's making that much. You don't have any money put aside for investments." I'm like, "No. You see that Jaguar out there? You remember that Hawaii trip I took?" He's like, "Well, you're an idiot." So about 18 months later, he comes knocking on my office door again, "Billy," and he says, "Hey, we're buying this new deal. You got any money to put in?" I'm like, "No." And he's like, "You're an idiot." He goes, "Now you're making $100,000. What are you doing with your money?" And I'm like, "Spending it." Third time, 1992, comes knocking on my door. Now, this time, he had sent me out as the leasing agent, as the front man, and said, we're thinking about buying this deal. What can you do as a leasing agent? How high of rents can you up these rents? How can you improve the value of this asset? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a great asset. They're only charging $28 a square foot in rent. I think I can get the rents to 40. He's like, awesome, we're going to buy this asset. You're going to put in money, right? Now I'm making 125, 130. I'm still married. He's making 125, 130. We've got a combined income of 250. No money. He literally, Billy, took me by the collar and dragged my butt and my husband's butt down to the local bank. And he co-signed a $50,000 note for me and us to invest in this asset. And we owned it up until 3 years ago. From within 6 months, we refied out. I had increased the rents, increased the value, did a refi, got all of our equity back. I paid back the bank within 6 months. I got the taste of investing. We sold it 3 years ago, and over from 1992 to 2016, I personally made over seven figures on that $50,000 investment. So that was a huge decision because he forced me, rightly so. Thank you, Stephen Battelle. And then I got the taste. So then we bought 6 more together. So, but the 6 more that he bought, he'd go find the deal. I probably was the leasing agent, and I just gave him a check, but I wasn't involved in the finding of the deal, the financing of the deal, the raising the capital, the equity of the deal. I actively brought tenants in as the leasing agent, but I wasn't the sponsor, as we call it, the head. So when I left him and that company to go semi-retire and start buying things on my own account, I'm now the head honcho. I'm finding the deal. I'm going to get a mortgage, which I had never done except for my house, which is a lot different. I'm, talking to the appraisers. I'm raising family and friends' money. I'm doing the underwriting analytical part. I had never done any of that. I just was the leasing agent. So, but I was ready because I had done it 7 times as a limited investor, and I was ready to go do it on my own and learned a lot of lessons since 2004. Like I said, gave a big deal back with my partner BlackRock out of New York. So learned a lot, but my current portfolio is worth 87 million. And I'm very proud because in the United States, there are not a lot of women owners of shopping center portfolios that it wasn't a family inheritance. So gotcha. I'm proud of my small little portfolio of 6 properties.
Well, and I am so glad, Beth, that you stopped a second to share that story with us, because one of the things that we can take away from that is you had a boss / business partner that was helping, like kind of gave you the truth, like right in between the eyes, right? And then actually had the strength to follow through with you and say, look, I know that you should be doing this. And I'm even going to, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to go down. And so when you saw yourself parlay that 50 grand over, 14, 15, 16 years, turn into 7 figures, how glad are you that Steve or Steven actually literally, if you watch us on the video, because those 2 thumbs went up so high.
He's my hero. He's my hero. And then you can imagine, Billy, the minute we co-signed that loan and I invested in that deal, every commission after that, 25% went into an investment account. And from then on, anytime the door got knocked, I was ready.
So, and that's beautiful. So that's one of the lessons that you took away right now is, rather than going out and buying all this nice stuff and consuming, and this is me putting my little tint on it, but you took away from that equity that started happening. And when you pulled all your equity out and you're like, oh my gosh, 6 months later and I have all my money back. Hang on a second. I probably need to do this over and over and over and over again. And so it built that muscle that says, okay, now I'm going to have a specific account just to invest.
Right. So I grew up at 32 because I was messing around from 20. Well, I had no money when I was making the 11,000, working my butt off, having the side job for those 2 years. So I think I just, after those 2 years of scrimping and saving and, not going out and not spending, then when I started making money, I just had this attitude that I deserved it, but was not thinking long-term. So for the people that are watching, compound interest, right? Just Google compound interest. I tell my boys, I adopted a second son as a single parent. So when Alex, my first son, was 8, we adopted Mario, who's 5. So they are now 20 and 17. And I am all over them. They both work. My older son works at Lego. My younger one works at Burger King, and they save. And I show them those compounding schedules. Had I started at 26 instead of 32, even if it wasn't in real estate, we're not taught those lessons in school. Yeah. Billy, right?
And I love that you're, as you speak with Alex and Mario. And by the way, my first real job was at Burger King as well. So that's funny. Another point in common. Did you have those conversations growing up in your home, just about money and things like that?
No, my dad was a dreamer and my mom was the work ethic queen. And no, okay. I mean, I worked from an early age. They were entrepreneurs. So I always worked in the family businesses. Like at 11, I would babysit and I had a checkbook when I was 11, because they did teach me, you make deposits, you make withdrawals. So they taught me about accounting.
Yeah.
They didn't teach me about investments.
Gotcha.
2 different things.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Love that. And so the fact of the matter is that you've also grown beyond that, because now you're paying it forward and teaching your children the lessons that now, which is fantastic. So a couple of things, like I just want to talk to you about so many different things, but we're going to go back to your sweet spot, the retail space, and also to help people understand, right? Can help us to understand kind of where we are today in the retail space, why you continue to put your time, energy in that space, because a lot of times people just talk about the residential aspects of real estate, or real assets, I like to say, but maybe educate us really quickly here in the Going Long family on the current state of retail right now.
Absolutely. So in the U.S., which is my knowledge base, as of November 2020, we had $5.4 trillion of retail revenues. 5.4 trillion. If I asked you, Billy, what percentage of that do you think was online sales in the US? What number would you give me?
I think I read something in the area of like 25, 30%.
Great.
Maybe.
So I hear 20, 60, 80. So it's 14.5.
14.5. Wow. Okay.
Of
that 5.4 trillion.
Out of 4.5 trillion. We haven't gotten the newest numbers since Christmas, so we believe those numbers are up. Online sales in November went up to 16 and then dropped during Christmas to 14.5 because last minute shoppers go to the stores. Okay. And then in the 60s and 70s era, you might be too young, but someone in our family, your audience might remember catalogs.
Oh yeah, I'm in the 70s, but yeah, catalogs.
Okay, catalogs. They were 10% of retail sales. So the predictors say that online sales will peak at a cap of 30% by 2030. Let's say they're wrong, and the fake news people are right, and let's say it goes to 50. I'm still a buyer of retail shopping centers if only 50% of 5.4 or 6 million or $8 million of retail revenue is in retail centers, because I'll buy them. It's location, location, location. So, and that's what I buy. So during COVID, all of my centers performed because I wasn't the buyer who bought the center at the $20 a square foot, way below replacement value. I bought them at the highest price because they were a main and main, great access, great tenants, next to Whole Foods, next to daytime drivers like colleges and hospitals. So I will maybe overpay, but it plays out now because during COVID, my centers were fit right into that new classification of retail called necessity retail, which all stayed open during COVID. So I'm a big believer in retail because I believe people are social beings and they want to go out, and there are last minute Annies or Andies that won't have time to, I've got to go to dinner tonight, my anniversary, I got to go buy a gift, and Amazon isn't going to help that guy. So retail is here to stay. Now, there will be definitely some adjustments. We have 1,000 malls in the United States. 300 to 500 of them will close in the next 3 to 5 years. It was an overbuilt category, and it's time to adjust. So, and that's not a bad thing. In fact, in South Florida, we have 15 malls. If 7 close, that's going to be great for my portfolio. So there will be adjustments, but retail is here to stay, and it's not retail is dead or retail apocalypse. All of that is blown out of proportion.
Yeah, and so I love that you kind of can help us to level set. And first of all, just to understand this 4.5 trillion, and then kind of where the market plays, and up to 30% online by 2030. So there's still quite a runway to even get there. And yes, I agree with you in that we are very social beings. So we have to, we want to be in contact with one another and not just behind this screen. Although I'm glad that we can sit here, but I would much rather be with you hanging out in Miami in 82 degrees and, having a cup of coffee.
and I would like to have a cafecito in Barcelona with you.
Perfecto. Dentro de poco. We will very soon. So this is one of the things that I kind of teased it a little bit in the very beginning, but I know that this is kind of an adult place. We can talk about F words. And so you have your 4 F words that you love to share as it relates to some of the different success elements for real estate, for retail real estate, right now. So would you be kind enough to share what you mean by those 4 Fs?
Yes. So the best tenants, or right now, the tenants who have the most success in retail are the 4 F words. Food, so restaurants. Physicians, go with me there.
All right, physicians. I'll give you that one.
Okay, so healthcare, urgent care, podiatry, dentistry, these all used to be in office buildings. They are now in retail. Aspen Dental, all of these medical uses. Mm-hmm. Fun. So escape rooms, bounce houses. I was concerned with COVID that those would those come back or not? They're coming back with a vengeance. So fun. And the last one is fitness, health, yoga, Pilates, CrossFit, you name it. So those are, so in the 70s and 80s, it was shoes and clothing. That is an online, that's shifted. The number 1 shoe seller in the world is Amazon. So you're not going to see apparel unless it's discount treasure hunting like a Ross Dress for Less or a TJ Maxx. But Walmart and Target and Amazon has taken the boutiques out of retail. So, and that's why the malls are doing poorly as well, because that is mostly what the malls are made up of. So outdoor power retail, the centers that I own, necessity retail, in 10 years ago, if you owned a shopping center, you would not want more than 10% of your gross leasable area. So if I owned a center that's 50,000 square feet, it was the norm to not have more than 5,000 square feet made up of restaurants. Mm-hmm. Billy, in the last 5 years, that 10% has gone to 50. Restaurants have become the anchors of shopping centers because why? Because 3 years ago, dining out exceeded in-home grocery sales for the first time in the history of humanity. And that is because of time. We cannot buy more time. So how can we buy more time is by doing things like eating out and not grocery shopping and cooking, sitting down with the family and having a family meal instead of the wife or the mother cooking or the husband cooking, or, and the kids are playing in another room. So grocery sales took a back seat to dining out for the first time ever. That was 3 years ago. Now during COVID, that's lopsided, obviously, because we're stuck at home, but that will go back to that. And that is what spurred the restaurant expansion in the shopping centers. And as shopping center owners saw that the boutiques were closing and moving out of their centers and shoe stores were moving out of their centers, what do we replace it with? Food and beverage, and then fitness, physicians, and then fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing those 4 F words with us. And yes, we'll count them all as F words.
3.5, right?
Well, no, we'll count them all. That's fine.
Okay.
And so I guess what it sounds like to me, Beth, what you're really sharing with us is that we're going to continue to need these retail spaces because we're social creatures. What will happen is we'll go from what happened in the 60s to the 70s to the 80s is the actual type of client that is in the space is what will change based on the way that we are changing and adapting based on technology, family, trends, social, cultural, these kinds of things. Would that be accurate?
100%. I mean, just take a look at one particular retailer, Starbucks. They're not just a coffee seller. They have created the third place. They actually have created something where I will show up to go grab my coffee and go, and there are 30 people inside of a coffee store, and it's their office. Yeah. So a retailer has created this whole new business, this line of business, which is, I don't want to be at home on my computer. I want to be around people, and they have all these plugs and these chargers and their laptop, and they sit at a table for 5 hours and they have people meeting with them. They have taken Starbucks and created it to be an office. So I think we'll see that innovation across all kinds of retailers. We're seeing collaborations now. We're seeing, the advent of the selfie generation has expanded health and beauty sales off the charts, which is why Sephora and Ulta are expanding, and the grocery stores and the pharmacies are adding they're expanding their cosmetic features in their subset of their stores, all because of the selfie generation, because people wear makeup more now. That's just crazy to see how something socially happened because of iPhones that then made its way into my world of retail that then they need. And that, again, can you buy makeup online? Sure. Is it better to go in and try the stuff on and have a beauty consultant help you? Definitely. Yeah.
No, so these are key points that are really, really important. And it just goes back to this, the space, the social creatures that we are. And as we continue to adapt with the trends and just things that are as we continue to evolve. And, there's a couple things that, because a lot of what we will talk about is here. Like I live in Europe and Spain, a country that you know very well. And I'd love to invest exclusively, at least as of today, back in the United States. Right. And so there are a lot of people that are like me, very busy professionals during the day and building their portfolio, some of them actively and many of them passively. Right. And as we're constantly learning, like this retail space is something that could be really new for them, but thinking, okay, well, I'm interested in actually, this is what Beth is talking to me about. This actually sounds like really, really like great stuff. And as a way that I could potentially place capital and all this kind of stuff. And so we're talking about a lot of the things that are happening in the positive light in terms of retail. I would love for you in your experience to say, all right, well, what are some of the things that if this all sounds great, like what are some of the things that can maybe be the challenges around retail, or some of the things that we should also really be looking into when we're doing our due diligence or reaching out and saying, okay, all right, retail, I like it, but what do I need to watch out for?
So you want to watch out for the deals that are too good to be true. So I get calls all the time from investors who, can you take a look at this deal? It looks awesome. Look what a great deal I'm getting. It's $20 a square foot, and the replacement cost is $100. And then I say, okay, well, let's do a Google map, but let's look at the area. And as we zoom in on this great, awesome, possibility, there are 43 other shopping centers up and down the street. So back to economics 101, supply and demand. And I say, you cannot buy this because now rent will become a commodity. When you're competing against 43 other $20 a square foot properties that investors have purchased, it's a game, it's a race to see who can lease the fastest to raise value. And what does that do to the rent? Drops the rent. So I want you to always look for a supply and demand. I want you to invest in a property that there isn't 43,000 acres around it where developers can come in and build a shiny new in 5 years and you're the second best. So, but that costs more. And that's the rub. Like, where's the deal versus am I overpaying? So people accuse me of overpaying all of the time, and I surprise them all of the time because I am a supply and demand girl. I'm always looking for daytime drivers and nighttime and weekend drivers. So I like high income because I want people to have the ability to spend money. So I want high income neighborhoods where there's neighborhoods that will shop and eat out and spend money nights and weekends. But also I'm down the street from a hospital and colleges where they all come to eat at lunch. So if you don't have any daytime drivers and you're buying a shopping center in the middle of a neighborhood, that's great. But between 8 and 5, you're not going to have this. So sales, the tenant sales, rent is a function of the sales. So if the tenants do well, they're going to pay more rent. So if you buy a property that only has one peak time, nights and weekends, they're going to have half the sales. If you buy a property that has the daytime traffic and the nights and weekends, they're going to do double the sales. They can pay more rent. So I also would advise people to be careful about buying properties that have blocked visibility. So most of the shopping centers in the US in the 70s were built U-shaped. And that was because the developers wanted to put as much real estate on the property as possible. The more that they build, the more rent they get. But that's not the case because the corners are never leased. 90% of the vacancy in the US, we call them the elbows of the shopping centers, they're never leased. So, but greedy developers also would build a shopping center and build out parcels, which are single freestanding buildings in front of a shopping center, multi-tenant shopping center behind. I have a center right now that I own. It's 30,000 square feet, but in front of it is 4 out parcels that block all the visibility and exposure. I bought it because it's sitting in front of a 28 million people mall, a mall that 28 million people a year come to. So I thought that was defense against the blockage of the visibility. It wasn't. It's been my worst deal. I finally have figured it out and made it successful. And pretty soon I'm going to sell it. But don't buy properties that have blocked visibility and exposure to the traffic because the retailers need the traffic. So dual times of peak customers. So don't go with one peak only if you can. And then don't buy properties that have blocked visibility and exposure because the retailers need that. Those are and supply and demand. Don't buy something because you can get it cheap when you go to the market and see that your competition of available retail space is significant. Stay away from that.
All right. So love that. So it's supply and demand. You also want to make sure the block visibility and then also that constant peak customer flow, which is fantastic. So thanks so much for sharing that with us. You also mentioned something, you talked about it, but I think a lot of people are not familiar in the retail space. There's this thing called Triple-Net leases, kind of what that means versus just the normal, I guess, lease agreement. So maybe if you could talk to that a little bit and why someone who is looking to invest passively, why that could be something that they need to be aware of.
So when you buy retail versus office and industrial, the tenants pay what's called Triple-Net leases. So they pay net of common area maintenance. So the parking lot pole lights, portering, cleaning up the parking lots, the garbage, emptying the garbage. So they pay net, they pay their rent, and they also pay a contribution towards the maintenance. They also pay their share of the real estate taxes, and they pay their share of the insurance to protect for the liability of the property. When you have a multi-tenanted strip center, those tenants pay their share of. So if you have 10 tenants and your insurance bill is $100,000 and all of the tenants are 1,000 square feet, they would pay 10% of that insurance bill. Easy peasy. If you have vacancy, the landlord pays the difference. That's for multi-tenanted shopping centers. If you have a single tenant, so let's say you have a Starbucks, it's just a Starbucks, one building, and they are a Triple-Net deal, or they pay their own portering, they clean up around their building, they pay their one tax bill, and they pay their one insurance bill. So as an investor, if you're in Barcelona and you want to buy 3 Starbucks in Miami, you get a check. The only reason that tenant would call you, Billy, is if there was a problem with the roof. That's your only responsibility, or structure. Like, rarely does that happen. But let's say that you were on a sinkhole and their building started having a structural problem. So as investors who are far away in another country, a great investment would be, that's called single tenant investing, because they do everything and they just send you a rent check.
So, and I love you breaking that down for us. So the multiple tenant versus a single tenant. And then also too, and you used a great example if you're in Spain and you want to invest in Florida, for example, but you could also be in Texas and you want to invest in Florida. And Beth is helping you to understand, like, when you hear something like a Triple-Net lease, unless it's something that's probably foundational or the roof, this is one of the things that you want to be aware of, because this will affect how much involvement or how much potential exposure you could have to the different or the line items around expenses. So that could be an interesting thing for you to keep in mind. So, we haven't really talked a lot about it, but I would love for you to help us understand, Beth, also too, with your Azor Academy. Help us understand, like, who you're helping there, how's it working, how can we kind of help us understand more about Azor Academy, please.
Sure. Every 6 months, I help someone new. So leasing agents are the bulk of it. So leasing agents who work for companies or families who own shopping centers that have vacancy. That is 75% of Azor Academy. However, on March 19th, I'm doing a summit for women investors called the Commercial Real Estate Women Investors Summit. It's a virtual event. I have 6 other women investors who will be speaking, who will talk about, like the woman I said that I met last night from Clubhouse, she owns hotels. I don't know another woman, single woman, not a corporation, that owns hotels. So she'll be speaking on hotels. I have another woman who bought 32 townhouses, started with 1 in Wichita, Kansas, now owns 32. I have a woman who buys land. I'll be speaking about shopping centers. So I have a woman who owns restaurants. So Azor Academy is starting to expand, not just on leasing agents filling vacancies. I have coaching programs where people are looking to buy real estate or build a brokerage firm, all things that I've done. And it's a coaching, one-on-one coaching. So if someone calls and says, if I get more than 2 or 3 calls about people saying, I wish you had something that did this, then I just create a vehicle to help them do this. Mastermind groups. During COVID, I did something called the Freshman Forum, because in 2009, Billy, the commercial real estate industry in the United States we lost a whole generation of kids. They were young, let's say between 25 and 35. They were in the industry. '09 happens, the Great Recession. They all left the industry. They went to other things. No one was there to kind of catch them and help them. So I started something called the Freshman Forum. And we met weekly for an hour, and some of them were losing their jobs. I helped them find jobs. That was just a free service to help keep my industry intact, so that once we got out of this, we didn't have a whole generation of people that left. So, and we did a mentoring program with that. So it's just a way to help folks in my industry of commercial real estate.
Okay. I love that. So once again, being able to give back, really being able to focus primarily on I would say a high touch. So really more on the one-to-one kind of thing. And at the same time, when you see the opportunity to really go more mastermind, meaning that there are multiple people that you're able to help, you have that flexibility or that autonomy to be able to do that as well. So wow, this is really, really cool. So I just want to keep talking to you forever, Beth. And you know what? I know that time is limited. And so the thing is we got to get to the going long final three. But the thing is, I never ask any of the going long final three unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. You were born ready. I knew you were going to say that. So we started over on your side of the pond, and now I want to bring it back to this side of the pond. And so I would love for you to tell me and the entire Going Long family, what is your favorite European city, either that you have visited or still on your bucket list to visit? And I think I know the answer.
Valencia or Valencia, for those of you that aren't in the know. So Valencia, Spain is my favorite European city.
And that's cool. We can say Valencia as well, because we're in the know. And most of us that are listening are in the know. So very cool. So another vote for Valencia. So thank you very much for that. And then the other second question I really want to ask you is, like every successful person that I know, and you are a successful person, the thing about everyone that's successful is they've only made one mistake during this entire, I get that wrong every single time. Okay. So maybe you've had like multiple mistakes or learning opportunities, or however you want to call it. I guess the most important thing is, Beth, what is the one lesson that you think is important to share with the Going Long audience or the Going Long family?
Follow your instincts. So I've lost many investment deals because I was nervous and I would ask people's opinions that really hadn't done it. And I don't know why I listened to them. And every time I've dropped those deals, and then someone else has picked them up and done great things with them. So I don't ask anyone's opinions anymore. And instead of looking in the rearview mirror, I look out the windshield and I just say, I've got a good nose for picking real estate, because I had those 7 deals that I didn't do, but someone else went and did them. And now I don't need to ask anyone's opinion anymore, because that was my master's class that I'm good at picking. So follow your instincts. I have 34 years in the business. I don't know why I was asking someone else's opinion, but I was scared and I had fear and I wanted some justification or someone to say, yeah, you should go do it. And they didn't. Most people don't say, yeah, you should go do it, because most people are very conservative. So if you have the experience, if you feel it, if you've done your numbers, if you say this is going to be a good deal, go for it.
Love it. So just go for it, be able to trust your instinct and move forward on it. And so love that. And now we're getting to the last of the Go Long Final 3, which is, and this is one thing that I forgot to tell everybody, and if it's just another cool thing about you, Beth, is you are a 2-time published author, and we're going to make sure that we include your books in the show notes. If you want to give a shout out to your books as well, you can give a shout out, because I forgot to do that in the beginning, and so everybody needs to know, because these are cool books and you need to go check them out, especially if you're in the retail space, because they're awesome. So if you want to give a shout out to your 2 books, and then I'll ask you the question.
Sure. So the first book is called Don't Say No for the Prospect. And it's a bunch of stories on how we have limiting beliefs. And we say, well, I'm not going to call that guy. He would never want to lease space in my shopping center. And we do, or I don't want, my boys, I don't want to ask that girl out. She's going to say no. And it's a great examples of how we stop ourselves from asking the question. And the whole premise of the book is, if you don't ask, you're at the no. So you might as well go for it. So Don't Say No for the Prospect. And then the second book is called The Retail Leasing Playbook. And that's just the A to Z on how to fill a shopping center through leasing.
Awesome. And we're going to include both of those books in the show notes. And here's the last question. What book would you recommend to the Going Long family?
So I was an English literature major in college. So, I could give you 100 books, right? But I'm going to go back to how Valencia happened. So why I like Valencia is I taught there for 3 summers for 5 weeks in Spain for my alma mater, Florida State University. And I got to live there with my boys before they turned 16. And why that's important is when I read the book, The Power of Focus in 2004, it said before the bucket list was popular, create 101 list of things you want to do in your next 10 years. So, and the book says it'll take you 20 minutes. Well, no, it took me about a month. The first 30 was easy. The second 30 was not that hard. The third 30 got to be difficult. But the last 11, Billy, was you just started throwing stuff on there that would be cool, but you knew was never going to happen. And on that last 11, I wrote, I wanted to be a college professor. And at the time that I wrote the list, I was 3 classes short of my degree. So I said, well, I'll never be a college professor because I don't even have my undergraduate. And I also wrote, I want to live in a foreign country with my boys before they turn 16.
Awesome.
And, 10 years later, I am teaching 2 college classes in Spain and living there 3 summers for 5 weeks. So The Power of Focus, I think, is a phenomenal book.
All right. Fantastic. So The Power of Focus, and that's it. Wow. And like I said, Beth, I just want to keep talking to you forever and ever and ever. And I'm sure we will after this. And if I go back, just kind of thinking about, it started one of the very first things I said is, one of the favorite things for you is being a mother. And we kind of end on you and being able to talk about the power of focus and how you were able to live this life dream, right? One of those 101 things that you wrote down. You helped us talk about how you were had someone that really helped you to focus and actually take action and help you to get 50 grand that you parlayed into 7 figures. And then you realize, wow, this is something I want to do after the first 6 months, because you actually just saw the power of not just going out to consume things, but really learning how to invest. And then that led you down a path to putting 25% of what you do into an investment fund, and then being able to go from there to take action and say, look, I'm not going to be just a limited partner. I actually want to get on the front line. I want to take more control and really get out there and do more of the things and use more of the skills that you had. And since then, you continue to go beyond that and now positively impacting other people's lives by teaching them, right, how they can go out and be successful agents. And you continue to stay, and you've helped to educate us today. And you know what, because of that, and I'm sure that's one of the reasons why the Azor Academy exists, but I know so many people here at the Going Long family want to get in touch with you. And I would love for you to help us understand, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Beth? And so we can learn more about you, contact you, things like that.
So the best way is probably email, which I think you can share in the show notes, but it's beth@azoradvisoryservices.com. That's the best, quickest way. But also I'm very active on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Clubhouse. So I host shows throughout the week in Clubhouse on retail mostly. But I also have a women's group on Sunday mornings. So just find me on Clubhouse, search me and follow me and ring the bell. And every time I open a room, you can join in on the discussion.
All right. That's fantastic. So I know one person who will be in touch with you today, and that's this guy. And so listen, definitely everybody, Going Long family, take Beth up on her offer, find out more about Azor Academy, reach out to her. She's left her email address at beth@azoradvisoryservices.com. We'll include those in the show notes as well. So don't worry if you're running on the treadmill or cooking or something like that. It's all in the show notes. Just click the link and you'll be able to contact Beth. So Beth, just from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you so much for investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Billy, for having me.
Yeah, it's been my pleasure. And if you let me, just a couple words to the Going Long family really quickly. Going Long family, once again, thanks for spending and investing your time with Beth and I today. I mean, she really gave us so many stories and helped to share knowledge, to educate you so much around the retail space. And she even helped to spell out one by one the 4 Fs, the 4 F words, right? And that is awesome. And so guess what? You have a unique opportunity to go out, share today's episode with at least 2 to 3 other people. You can be that positive impact on their lives. And I know that they're going to appreciate all of the things that Beth shared with you today and what is going to share with them. And so, share that with them. It helps to also attract other like-minded people to the Going Long family. And, also one of the other things I'd like to ask you is to go ahead and leave your review. Leave an honest review. These are things that I actually go back through, and I want to understand what you liked about today's conversation, what you'd love to hear in future conversations and things like that. And so I'd really appreciate that as well, to leave an honest review. And I'm going to be here waiting for you on the very next episode, the very next conversation. And until then, I want you to go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Wow, don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me like a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.